Position preview time. It is orange and blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason talking Broncos wide receivers, and you see him on that beautiful thumbnail. There is Courtland Sutton, the Broncos wide receiver one, and well, we have yet to hear from Sutton this offseason, Mace.
Surprisingly, didn't hear from him during days, didn't hear from him during minicamp, and his contract status is quo. As in unchanged, as in he's heading into this season on what is really the last year of his contract, because of course it's void years in 2026, 2027, and 2028. So he's playing this year on a cap number of $20.2 million, a base salary of $13.5 million, and indications are Broncos want him back. Courtland Sutton wants to be back. He's coming off the first 1,000-yard season since 2019. He has good chemistry with Bo Nix, but nothing's done as of the time we record this.
Yeah, deals get done at deadlines, and I would imagine sometime at the beginning of training camp is where we'll see that happen, Mason. Well, we might have to redo the show if he signs one more then, but still, we know that Sutton can get it done. And that's the thing. He played ball with the team last year. I think there's zero question. And now you look to build on that 1,000 yards, maybe get him back to double-digit touchdowns because of Evan Ingram, because of the other receivers we're going to talk about, opening things up for Court. This offense is no longer just Court in the passing game. A lot more weapons this year.
A lot more weapons. I think we saw not too long ago Bill Barnwell writing for ESPN describing Marvin Mims Jr. as the best gadget player in the game right now. So it's not just Ingram being there as the joker opening things up. It's Marvin Mims Jr. opening things up now that the Broncos figured out how to properly use him in the back half of last year. Remember, over the last 8 games of the season, he was on a 1,000-yard pace. After they figured out what to do with him, he was on a 1,000-yard receiving pace. It started by just getting him in the backfield and getting him the ball on handoffs from Bo Nix, starting with that Kansas City game, and then just growing from there. Of course, obviously, he had that catch and run against Cleveland there on Monday Night Football. But it was amazing what just getting him more involved in the offense somehow, some way seemed to open up for Mims confidence-wise, and getting him involved gave defenses something else to think about, which did open things up for Courtland Sutton. And if you get Evan Ingram involved, that's going to open up more things for Courtland Sutton as well. And if you've got situations setting up to where safeties have to think about these other options, and you're setting up Courtland Sutton one-on-one downfield and outside, that's where Courtland Sutton can eat, because we know how proficient Court is when he's going downfield one-on-one. That is where he's still one of the very finest in the league, winning those one-on-one matchups downfield on those 9 balls. He's still among the very best at it.
Oh, yeah. I guess it grinds my gears, Mace, when people are like, the Broncos don't have a number one. Yes, they do. He's Courtland Sutton. And it's not just because he's the de facto number one. Like, he's a legit, is he Jamar Chase? No. But he doesn't need to be Jamar Chase.
Yeah, and this is where if you've got other things working, you can actually start getting Courtland Sutton back to things that he did well earlier in his career, and you can bring the vertical game back, because we're going to see defenses that try to take away rhythm and timing from Bo Nix, because obviously when he gets into that mode, he's difficult to stop. We saw that the back half of last year. But as Bo continues to grow and evolve and add tools to his belt, then he'll beat you in more ways. And I think one of the things that might be interesting to see is, as Bo improves, as I expect him to as a vertical passer, that we maybe see not it happening the way it did with Russell Wilson there in 2023, where it's Russ running around and Court sometimes breaking things off and getting open, but we see just Bo dropping back and lofting it up for Court, and then Court just winning that one-on-one matchup. Because look, if you've got Court downfield against a smaller corner, you're going to take that shot and you're going to either get a catch or you're often going to get a DPI. Either way, you're going to get what you want out of it, which is a big gain more often than not.
Yeah, a big gain, and that connection with Bo Nix. We do have some B-roll about that, right? About Nix and Sutton, because you see what can they build on? You know, how can this thing grow? You saw it last year. It looked fantastic. And, you know, Sutton proving it wasn't just Wilson. He's got connection with Bo Nix, and Bo Nix being, you know, on the money in terms of getting better as a young quarterback. Courtland Sutton's a big part of that and should be a big part of that going forward.
Well, they just work well together, and it's really to Courtland Sutton's credit last year that even though he missed time with all the contract stuff going on during OTAs, that when he got in during minicamp, he really committed himself to getting on the same page with Bo Nix and getting off to a good start with him. And he bought into Bo Nix. And think about this with Court. He did pretty well with Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
Russell Wilson running around, buying time, and then lobbing it up. That suited Court's skill set. So you would understand Court being a little bit skeptical at this time last year, but he bought into Bo.
Mm-hmm.
Bo won him over, but Court bought into Bo. And that was one of the things that I think really helped pull things together. And then Court, of course, he's developed as a leader as well. You know, he earned the captain designation. He's earned that role as a leader, someone who's become respected in that locker room, a voice that young guys turn to as well. So the value goes far beyond just what he brings as a wide receiver. It's what he brings as a person as well.
Right. And for those young receivers to look up to, the professional, like everyone's a pro, but are you a professional? And Courtland Sutton is that. He's not in the police blotter, speeding or whatever. Like, he's just getting his business done and handling it the right way. And that's why he's the Broncos' #1.
Exactly. And the question now is, how long is he going to be that? And also the question is, how much is his play going to determine whether he's the Broncos' #1 compared to the other guys who are behind him as well?
Right.
Because you've got younger guys, you hear the barking in the background. You got younger guys who are kind of barking and nipping at his heels as well.
Oh, you hot snot. That's perfect.
Yeah, they've got things that they want to say. They've got things that they want to do. And when you bring in guys like Troy Franklin and you bring in Pat Bryant, you know, they're going to have things to say as well. Troy Franklin coming off what was an outstanding offseason, making plays left and right on the practice field, accumulating yardage after the catch, earning the praise of none other than Sean Payton for his work over the course of off-season work during OTAs and minicamp.
You haven't been able to see all the plays, but there have been a number of explosive plays. He can run. And I would say a strength of his is ball in hand after the catch. You know, he can run after the catch. So he's doing well.
Building off of what he did in the playoffs as well. How many times did he have those near misses throughout the season? They kept going deep to him. Came close, didn't get it there. And then finally, in Buffalo, early in that game, the connection. We hear Sean Payton say confidence comes from demonstratability. He says that a lot. The demonstration of that in the playoffs, it seems to have carried over for Troy Franklin based on what we saw in practices over the course of the spring and summer.
Yep. And that clip of Sean talking about Troy, and rewind to when they picked Troy and he's up at 6:30 because he can't sleep because Troy Franklin's right there. We got to find a way to get him.
Yeah.
I believe, Mason, please correct me if you feel I'm in error. Sean's got himself a project. He's got himself a guy he really, really wants to hit.
Really wants to hit because he moved up to get Troy Franklin at the expense of potentially getting some other guys that they liked, right?
Mm-hmm.
Moving up to get Troy Franklin might have cost them Bucky Irving, for example.
Right? You got to make choices.
Yeah. You can't have everything. You can't have it all. Just the way it goes.
Yeah. And run after the catch, I think with that speed and electricity. The question is how long Courtland Sutton is number one. The question is also who is the number two? And then how long is that number two the number two, or is he the number one eventually? Because don't think that Marvin Mims couldn't be that role, different from Court, obviously. Don't think that Pat Bryant couldn't be that role. Don't think that Devaughn Vele couldn't be that role.
Well, let's hear Sean Payton talk about Marvin Mims Jr. Let's start right there.
I've said this to you before. Confidence is born out of demonstrated ability, and you guys have done this long enough. You've seen athletes grow up right in front of your eyes, and that began not just at the end of the season. That began early part of the middle season. So you could see it and certainly feel it now.
Well, there's that phrase, confidence comes from demonstratability. It's one of the things I like to say. That's why I used it earlier. You know, it sticks in your head. He said that about Marvin Mims Jr. He said that about Mims multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
I believe. I know he said that last year during the season as well.
That's true.
Yeah. And for Mims, it was a matter of just putting him in the position where he could demonstrate that ability because he didn't there wasn't that opportunity in the way that you wanted it to be. Like, they had something early in 2023, those first 4 games, and then it just vanished for a while. And then for the first half of last season, it wasn't there. And it was like, okay, we got to force the ball into his hands. And if it's not going to happen in the passing game, let's just hand it to him. Let's take the variable out of it and just hand him the ball, get it to him in the backfield. You know, just, we're going to design this play to where it's not going through a read to get him the ball. He's getting the ball, period, end of story. And that seemed to open things up. It was more intentional to get the ball to Marvin Mims Jr. when you were doing it on a handoff. Then you're in the passing game, it's going through reads. You know, you've got more variables involved with it. When it's a handoff, it's the intentionality of it. It's like, Marvin, you're getting the ball here. That's it. Mm-hmm. We want you to get involved. You must get involved, period. That's it. Done. And it's like it just opened the floodgates for him and allowed him to flourish. We'll get, there's more to talk about Marvin Mims Jr. as well, because special teams is going to be part of the equation, but it's like it just lit a fire under him, and where it can take him confidence wise as a receiver. I mean,
he couldn't do that 2 years ago.
Yeah.
You and I've seen almost every practice he's ever done. He couldn't do what you just saw 2 years ago. And correct me if I'm wrong, but in 23, he was the only 100-yard receiver for the Broncos in the season. And it was the Washington game with 2 catches.
Yeah. You mean the toe tap there?
Yeah. And even the route. His routes are better.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that get off. He wasn't doing that as a young player.
It's
he might have done that second move, but he wasn't doing that first move. And again, in college, guys aren't going to know that. They're not taught that. That's what makes Pat Bryant a rare bird, because he does understand that. Like, look at that get off, dude.
Yeah.
I know there's a little bit of a stumble there, but that he's just understanding how to kind of freeze you up. It's almost a basketball move, a little UTEP 2-step, whatever, crossover.
Yeah. Forget about 4-6-1. It doesn't matter when you've got that kind of get off. Who cares?
No.
Because if you've got that first step like that, that's all you need. It's not about the 40, it's about the 10. And if you got the first step, you're 10, you're going to win the matchup.
That length
there. Yes.
Today's episode of Orange and Blue Today is presented by Ramos Law, the official injury law firm partner of the Denver Broncos. Ramos Law was founded by Dr. Joseph Ramos, an attorney and ER doctor, to provide exceptional care to those injured in accidents. With a unique understanding of both medicine and law, the Ramos Law team is built to fight for you every step of the way. Experience the Ramos Law difference. Contact them today at ramoslaw.com. Yeah, so exciting future for these young guys. And with Mims, I always praise him, Mace, because he took that job. It's my belief, and you and I talked to Marvin, I think that was like week 3 or something, and kind of alluded to, maybe any sort of potential frustration. He didn't take the bait, but you could see the fire. Remember how much fire that guy had before he blew it up? And he was just like, you could tell it was there. And it's the coaches, and praise to Sean Payton for being creative enough to just hand him the ball.
Yeah.
And it's also for Marvin for not getting down, man. Johnny Moe was up his keister.
Oh my gosh.
And it didn't get Marvin down.
Well, did it not get him down? It seemed like there were times it got a bit frustrating for him.
I would say frustrating, but not like depressed. There's a difference.
It didn't defeat him.
Yes.
I think it may have gotten him a little down, but not out is what I would say. Down, but not out.
He fought back.
He
yelled back.
the poem that Marv Levy used to say to his Buffalo Bills, "A little I am hurt, but not yet slain. Just let me lie here and bleed a while, and I will rise and fight again." That's what I think it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that.
He rose and fought again. And we're talking about Marvin Mims Jr. being an all-pro on special teams and being a promising potential number 2 wide receiver on offense. Potentially, I mean, if you want to get really optimistic here, Cecil, a potential embarrassment of riches on offense. I mean, pass catcher, because if you've got Evan Ingram coming from the joker / tight end area, and if you've got Marvin Mims Jr. continuing to develop, and if you've got Troy Franklin bringing a little something to the room, and if you've got Pat Bryant, and we haven't even mentioned Devaughn Vele, who had an awesome rookie season, the type of rookie season that you haven't seen from a 7th rounder in like 19 years.
And the guy was talk of OTAs. I mean, Vele was the guy.
And then he missed mini camp, and then Pat Bryant went out there and had a great mini camp. I mean, it's a highly competitive situation here. I mean, you feel bad for A.T. Perry, who missed off-season work, and he's the only guy that has an injury question, according to Sean Payton, going into training camp, that he may not start training camp. Everyone else looks like they're good to go, including Devaughn Vele. And A.T. Perry certainly showed a lot of promise last year in practice, and like he was really, enthusiastic about where he stood at the end of the season. But he may find himself just out of the mix because of the quality and what all these guys have shown. I mean, they've got so many exciting young receivers here. There's not going to be room for everybody. I mean, there's some, but that's okay. I mean, I've often equated this to, in baseball, if you've got a cluster of young pitching prospects that you're high on at AA, not all of them have to hit. If you've got 4 top pitching prospects and say only 2 of them become studs at the major league level, well, you're happy with that, right? So you've got all these young receivers. If 2 of them become primo receivers, good starters at the NFL level, then you're happy with that, right? And so that's the thing. If you get a 50% hit rate, that's great. That's what you're hoping for here. You're going to be thrilled with that.
Yeah. And Devon Vele last year, second in only to Marcus Colston for 7th round receivers as a rookie in terms of yardage.
Yes.
If he learned how to run routes, if your OTA reports were all on the money.
Yeah. He was running routes pretty well. Yes. No doubt about that.
I mean, Vele could be your number 1 eventually. That's all complicating the Sutton conversation because it's like,
Yes.
okay, eventually, Pat Bryant could be your number one eventually.
This is the problem. Like, it's not, pardon me, it's not a
Good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have, but it informs the conversation. If you've got these young receivers and you know they're developing and you have confidence in them, then what? I mean, Marvin Mims Jr. is a third-year guy too. And he's in a different category, like if he's that gadget type, but let's say he's developing along the lines of, we're going to go back in the Wayback Machine here. Let's say he's developing along the lines of a Rick Upchurch, okay, who played 9 years for this team back in the 70s and the 80s, and he was an excellent returner who developed into a pretty good receiver over time. And we may be only scratching the surface on Marvin Mims Jr.'s value as a returner, because now we're getting into changes on kickoff returns, which could make him even more valuable there. So quantifying Marvin Mims Jr. contractually might be really difficult because you have to factor in special teams as well. But you have to think about potentially paying him in this mix too. So that complicates things as well. I mean, if you pay Courtland Sutton, all of a sudden you might not be able to pay Marvin Mims Jr. And Mims is a particularly unique weapon here. And so it may not be the wisest thing to extend Courtland Sutton right now, because you may want more information on Mims, especially with this altered kickoff return rule. Because, like, what if with the change in kickoff returns, what if Mims, with more opportunities on kickoff returns and all that space to operate, what if he has 3 touchdowns on kickoff returns and he gives you 6 touchdowns on offense?
It's just unstoppable.
And look, imagine this for a moment with Marvin Mims Jr. Imagine a stat line that involves 6 offensive touchdowns, a punt return touchdown, and 3 kickoff return touchdowns, because they changed the rules on kickoffs and he has that space to operate. If he's got a stat line like that, you're trying to drop a country. Now you're operating from a template that doesn't exist, perhaps, but you're trying to find a way to keep that around. And, I mean, are you able to do that if you've got a deal, if you've already made a deal with Courtland Sutton? I mean, this is complicated here, and you can't talk Marvin Mims Jr. contract until next year, because of course he's only in his 3rd year. So all these variables are in play here that you're thinking about. And oh, by the way, in addition to the Courtland Sutton contract, you've got the contracts on defense that you're thinking about: the Zach Allen contract, the Nick Benito contract, Malcolm Roach contract. You know, John Franklin Myers has an expiring contract. I mean, there's all these things in play, and you have these young receivers like Pat Bryant and Troy Franklin and Devaughn Vele that you do like, that you're developing. So is it the wisest move to give Courtland Sutton a contract right now? There is some question about that over whether you give him a contract extension just yet, before you see what these young receivers have.
It's a good problem to have, but it's going to lead to a choice for the Broncos. We'll see which way that takes him. We've talked about the top receivers, but there's a couple of receivers towards the end of the roster we need to bring up here as well. Maybe even a super secret receiver that, if you're able to get out to training camp, you're going to see Joaquin Davis.
Right. Let's talk about him. He's an undrafted rookie.
My God, look at that.
The length, the speed. Yeah, I mean,
he's not awkward when he moves.
4.4 speed. He's smooth, moves like a gazelle. Very raw. There's no doubt about that. Out of North Carolina Central. And this is somebody who's just going to need a lot of time. And
but it's worth that time with that skill set.
Ideally, you stash him on the practice squad. He had a great workout at the HBCU Combine over the winter. That got him on some radars. was in an offense that didn't get him the ball a lot last year. So if you looked at it, if you just did stat scouting, you probably wouldn't be impressed. But then you watch him move, and you watch him move. Watch how graceful he is, and then you look at the athleticism. Okay, give him a year. Ideal situation for Joaquin Davis, who, they got some intriguing guys among these undrafted receivers that they have. But I want to just focus on him for a minute, because you can't coach that length and you can't coach that 4.4 speed. He really, if you give him a year and see where he is, I think you might have something that you can work with here. But that's the thing. I could see the Broncos maybe trying to hide him a little bit this summer. Also some other intriguing rookies as well. You got to talk about Courtney Jackson. You got Jerwan Newton and Kyrese White, who impressed both of us during the rookie mini camp. He was a tryout guy who ended up getting a contract, and he made some catches during OTAs and mini camp as well. So don't dismiss him. And we have to mention Trent Sherfield, because he is almost certainly going to be on the team. They signed him as a free agent, formerly of the Minnesota Vikings. He is kind of filling the Traymon Smith role, special teamer extraordinaire, a guy who can get downfield potentially as a gunner, can be a core 4 special teamer as well. But filling that role from the receiver group rather than the cornerback group, made some plays with the second and third units in OTAs and minicamp, can provide some depth. So a nice depth package as well. I don't expect him to get many opportunities in the regular season on offense, but he's a nice extra piece to have as well. Not a bad guy to have in the room.
Yeah. And that's why the roster crunch.
Yeah.
You're going to have a roster crunch at wide receiver.
Yes. And you know who's still around? Michael Bandy. Mr. Practice Squad year after year.
Good for him, man. Good for him.
They can't quit Michael Bandy.
Force their hand, right?
Yeah.
Guys like him, they move on from all the time. And if you're sticking around, it's because you're doing something.
Right.
Especially with all this talent.
I mean, he just goes out there on the practice squad, does his job. I mean, if he sticks on the practice squad, this would be his 3rd year on the practice squad. Former Houston Roughneck as well. Just sticks around. Just sticks around, man. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's back on the practice squad again this year.
Yep. I would not be surprised either.
Yeah, but it's a good group. That's the thing about this group, is there's talent all the way down the list. There are things I like, and even as we were talking about this coming out of the rookie minicamp show, every one of these guys has something unique to their skill set. So it's probably top to bottom, one, if not the most talented group on the roster. It's probably right there in the top 2 as far as top to bottom talented position groups on the Broncos roster. Unfortunately, there's not going to be room for everybody. But that being said, you like the depth, but also that depth is why maybe it's not a slam dunk that Courtland Sutton's deal is done. Maybe it's a reason why Courtland Sutton's deal isn't already done to begin with, because you look at this depth and say, okay, maybe there's a wide receiver, one of the future, already there in our midst.
You know who else is sticking around, Mace? Our audience on YouTube. Hey, we're about 30 minutes into a wide receiver show. If you're here, you're one of us. And if you're here,
one of us.
How can folks help us out if they're on YouTube with us?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you never
miss
vid. That's right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey saying OBT's BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. And would you please stay frosty?